What's up, guys? Today we're gonna do something a little bit different, a little departure from our normal. We're gonna do a little breakdown, kind of a 101, how to set up your reel. So today we're gonna talk about the Daiwa SV TW system. This is a system that is probably my favorite system throughout any reel brand line. It's very easy to use from a beginner all the way to an advanced angler. There's some little tweaks that you should know going in. So if you'd like to deep dive through this system, I'm gonna show you how to set up your reel, give you a couple casting tips as well. Let's do it. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Depths, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined, of course, by my buddy Jeffrey the King. Jeffrey the King, good morning.
Ohio to you.
We are the Hookup Tackle USA. Today we are going to do a quick little deep dive breakdown into Daiwa's famous reel system. This is the SV TW system. Now, this system is found in Tatula, it's found in Zillion, it's found in Steez, right? So all of their lines of reels are going to feature this system, and for good reason. It is probably the best all-around system, period, I would say. So, each manufacturer has their own, I hate to use the word gimmick, right? But has their own, system that they use to help anglers have more enjoyment on the water, right? If you are a Shimano fan, right, or you've been in that lane, they have their DC technology. If you are a Daiwa person, they have their SV TW technology. And those two techs kind of are designed to accomplish a lot of the same thing for the angler, right? So the end user is going to experience a lot of the same ideas. It's just done in different ways. I love both systems. A lot of times for me, the DC, I'm kind of just giving my life over to the DC, and I'm not really working it, right? I'm kind of giving the computer its job, and I'm flicking my wrist, and the computer's doing the work. Whereas the SV TW is a little bit more gritty, I would say. I still have to have some control, and because I get control, I also get to kind of alter it and fine tune it to my liking, which I really enjoy, right? So let me break this down really quick for you in case you are new to the Daiwa world. Maybe you've just picked up an SV TW. Maybe you've been using SV TWs this whole time and had no idea exactly what all the little things were or why it even works the way it does, and maybe you can pick up something here that might help you, okay? So first up, SV, that is the name of the spool, okay? So the SV spool is a shallower spool that's kind of free floating on bearings there. So the idea behind the shallower spool and the way it's put together is that it's going to give you more cast control. The deeper the spool, right? So if you think back to old school spools where the spools were really, really narrow at the end. Remember, it used to take like 300 yards of line to fill up your spool, right? So if you think back to that and you kind of cut it in half and look at the piece kind of cut in half, you have so much dense line around the spool so that when you go to cast and that startup inertia and that spool starts spinning, all of the weight and all of the power is at the core of the spool, not at the top of the spool where your lure is actually going, right? So it's moving at almost 2 different speeds, and it's so heavy at the middle, it's hard to slow it down. So if you screw up, and like if you're new to baitcasting reels, you're gonna screw up all the time, right? I mean, I don't know that I've ever gone a trip without backlashing. I would almost bet my life that I've never gone a trip without throwing a backlash, right? So if you're fishing hard and you're going for it and you're taking some chances and you're actually giving it everything you got, you're gonna screw this up, okay? My job is to make sure you screw up as little as possible and have as much fun as possible and as we go through this, okay? So with the SV spool, instead of it being a really shallow spool that's full of line, they've basically enlarged the spool out so it doesn't take as much line. What that's done is, instead of it being really dense at the core of the spool and real heavy, by pushing it out, it's now lightened the core of the spool, so it's much easier for the cast control in the reel to slow that spool down. So now the startup inertia required for you to cast and the speed of that spool that's going while the lure is taking out is much easier to slow down if some hiccups come along the way. Maybe wind hit, maybe you're off on your timing and the bait's kind of herky-jerky. It's easier for that reel to kind of slow it down because it doesn't weigh as much in the middle. So that's basically, in essence, the SV spool. What the TW is in the SV TW is this T-wing system here, okay? Now, Daiwa has been working on this system for, better part of 2 decades now. And this is an amazing idea that allows the line to come off the spool with much less friction, okay? So if you look at a traditional reel, right, they're almost always some kind of like oval or circle, line roller guide that just goes back and forth, right? So what happens is when line sits on a reel, it gets coily, right? So line is going to take whatever shape you give it. So if you put it on, say, a round reel like this, it is going to take that same shape. So as you pull that line off, you see you get these coils, right? Because it's going to take the shape of the spool. So when you're forcing it through a circle or an oval, right, you're forcing all these, kind of twists and kinks in the line through one little small area. By going to the T-wing, when you open it up, it's now, instead of forced through a tiny area, you have this big wide oval that allows the line to come from any side of the spool through that with much less effort, okay? And I'm gonna come back to this in a minute when we talk about some casting tips that will help you guys make less backlashes and cast further, okay? So keep that in mind, those coils of the shape of the line, okay? Now, as far as setting up your SV T-wing reel, it's the same whether you have a Tatula, a Zillion, a Steez, right? They're all gonna set up exactly the same. So I have a Tatula in my hands here. We're just gonna use this, right? So you can see basically the settings that are on here. So there's basically 3 settings that you're going to be in charge of, right? The first one is your drag, okay? So here's your drag, okay? So the tighter this is, the harder it is for line to come off the spool, right? The lighter it is, the easier it is for line to come off the spool. Same drag idea that's been around for ages and ages and ages. On the side, you have Daiwa's MagForce cast control, okay? So you're gonna have this dial here that's basically going to push or pull magnets closer to the spool to help create friction to slow you down, okay? So you're gonna have numbers here, basically 0 through 20. 0 is no help. It's like, step aside, I got this, right? It's also a guaranteed backlash. Nobody can ever cast on 0, okay? 20 is, please God, help me. I suck so bad, right? And it will pretty much prevent any backlash, but you're only gonna be able to cast it about 12 feet.
Yeah, that's how Julius's reels are.
Right, horrible, right? I don't know how that kid could cast his reels. Every time I pick them up, I'm like, what the heck? And I look down, it's like literally like 16. Yeah, so here's the thing. I know we just made fun of somebody for having a number, but that's because we just like making fun of our own people. there's no right or wrong here with the number, okay? The reason why there are different numbers is because there are different casting strokes. Jeff throws different than I throw different than Julius throws. We're gonna all throw different than you throw. Some of us has more wrist flick, some of us have more arm, some of us, I watch myself cast and I have a lot of like body, like this beautiful, almost ballet look to it. That's what I get out of it, Jeff, right? So everybody's gonna have a different casting stroke, right? So based on how much momentum that you are putting into the reel, you may need more or less break. Okay, you're also going to need more or less break based on the lure that you're throwing and based on the conditions. So some lures are going to have much better aerodynamics than others. Okay, some lures have a great built-in casting system where there's a weight that transfers in, and when you cast it, it shoots through the air like a rocket. Other baits, like say a buzz bait, for instance, have this big giant blade and they love to just kind of flounder up in the wind, and they're kind of a pain in the ass to throw. Right? So you might need to have a higher number for a buzz bait and a lower number for, say, like a jerk bait with a cast control or something like that, right? So this is adjustable. Use it to your abilities. The idea is to try to get the lowest number possible without backlashing, okay? I'll come back to that in a second. The third dial is your spool tension knob, okay? And so this is important to talk about here on these. This is called the zero adjuster. Now, if you are just coming into the Daiwa system, this is going to be something a little bit foreign to you. The traditional way of setting up your bait casting reel for you to cast is to, of course, put the line up the rod, right? Tie your bait on, tighten the spool control, and then hit your reel so it's kind of free spooled, and then back that spool control down until it just starts coming down. That's usually your setting, right? That is gone now, okay? That is no longer the way we set up our SV T-Wing combos. When you have that zero friction control on the side, you're gonna notice, first thing you're gonna notice is it's really hard to access, and that's done for a reason. They don't want you to mess with it, okay? No longer does that have anything to do with the weight of the bait. It is now tuned to the cast control on the side, okay? So they are trying to give you a system that really doesn't care about the weight of your lure anymore. It just cares about working together as a team to help you, okay? So from the factory, this is set, and 99% of the time, you're probably never gonna have to touch this on the side, okay? What that's designed to do is it's designed to eliminate any movement of that spool in that reel, okay? This is set to the perfect place to where this spool is perfectly lined up to the cast control on the side. That allows them to operate perfectly, okay? Now, if you adjust it, right? So if I were to take this and move it, and you can see it's harder than normal to really kind of get in there and access it because they don't want you to really mess with it, okay? But you can use this to fine tune what you need the reel to do, because it might be different based on different lines that you put on there, or as time goes on, maybe it's broken in a certain way, right? So if you loosen that spool, what you're gonna get is you're gonna get play. All right, so you can see now that there's some play here between the spool and the reel. So what I want to do is I want to tighten that up. Almost there. Almost there. There. So you want to tighten that up until there's no play left between that spool and the reel. Okay, and that's the perfect spot. If you go too tight with it, right, then it's just tightened down. It's not going to cast as well. So there's really this kind of magical sweet spot where, and you can feel it. Too tight? Right there. It just starts having a touch of play. That's your sweet spot. Okay, and that's going to set it exactly right to that cast control, and you can just leave it there. Okay, so super easy. Now, let's talk about a couple of casting tips. okay, to where this is gonna help you if you guys are just getting into bait casting. Maybe you've been bait casting for a long time and maybe you've never thought about some of these. Maybe this will help you out, okay? One of the biggest things when I was guiding was trying to instruct people and have them understand what it is that's breaking down and what it is that's doing wrong, okay? The biggest thing I can tell you guys from a casting standpoint, if you're looking to cast and get maximum distance, maximum accuracy, fewest backlashes possible, is the first thing I do is make sure that the rod that you're using is not too stiff. Okay, so I know this is a reel video, but I can't emphasize enough that the softer the rod tip is, the easier it's going to be for you to cast without problems. Okay, no matter how we cast, there is a perfect point that you are going to click on the thumb bar, hold the line, you're going to come back and you're going to cast and you're going to let go of that spool. There is the perfect moment on every cast that you should be letting go. If you let go too late, right, it's going to go straight down in the water or fly off to the side. If you let go too soon, the bait's going to shoot up in the sky and you're going to try to hit a bird or something and it's going to come down, right? So there is an exact moment that you need to let go to where that cast is at its peak and you're going to get maximum distance and maximum accuracy. The faster your rod is, the smaller that window gets for that exact moment of release. So the better you need to be on your timing, okay? The whippier the rod is, the wider that window gets for the perfect time to let go, because the rod now is going to be loading. So you've come through and you've hit your exact time, but your rod still has this little bit of time to kind of and cast for you. Okay, so in the beginning, I would almost say underpower your rod just a touch. It'll help you with your accuracy. It'll help you get your timing down, okay? Now, another tip, this is probably the biggest tip I can tell you for bait casting reels. It is natural to hold your reel like this to where the reel is pointed at the sky, okay? This is a very natural position to be in. Go to cast where you stand here, you come up above your head and you throw out, right? That just makes sense to most everybody. Here's the problem. Back to the line coil thing that we said. The line's gonna take the shape of the rod, right? When this line comes off the spool, right? When it comes off and you're casting it, all those coils are going to hit the rod, okay? So you're gonna get these little coils, right? Remember the line's coiling? It's gonna hit that rod as it goes through all of those guides. Every time that line hits the rod, it's slowing it down by like little microseconds, right? But those microseconds compounded times 70 or 80 across the rod are creating these little micro movements in the spool that are costing you distance, but they're also causing you problems. They're also creating more backlashes because now your timing isn't spot on, okay? So the easiest way to eliminate that is instead of having the spool straight up, right, to where you're casting like this and it's straight up, all you simply need to do is just turn it, okay? Now, what you've done is now you're gonna have the side of the reel pointing at the sky instead of the line pointing at the sky. So simply by turning it here and casting now this way, what you've done is when those line coils come off, now they don't touch the rod, they're laying here in air. So now instead of it hitting the rod, 70, 80 times, you're only hitting it at the guides. So you've reduced the friction by an exponential amount and you're gonna get way better distance, way better control, and way fewer backlashes by doing that, okay? So go from this to this, okay? It will change the way you cast it. All right, guys, so that is the breakdown in how to set up your Daiwa SV T-Wing reel. If you guys have not used one of these yet, definitely put on your radar. It's definitely worth checking out. It's really just an amazing system. And again, it's available in anything from a Tatula at $199 up to Zillion, up to a Steez for $800. I mean, so you can really deck this thing out to your needs. If you have questions on setting up your reel or anything that we didn't discuss, drop it down below in the comments and I will definitely get to it. Jeff will leave links to these as well. If you want to check them out, you can. On behalf of myself and Jeff and everybody here at the Hook Up Tackle guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your business. We will see you on the next one. Have fun casting, everybody. No backlashes. It's like whammies. No whammies. No backlashes. Peace, guys.